Hello and welcome. Great to have you along for another Sunday Million highlight show. This one from the 26th of February, which saw 7,768 runners generate another huge prize pool of greater than $1.5 million. Just imagine, all for a $215 buy-in. This is the most remarkable regular poker tournament on the planet. There are your 9 final tablists. A little move early by a couple of players, nothing too dramatic. Lynn Straight will be our chip leader, taking us into final table action. As we check out hand 11, 200,000, 400,000 other blinds, and your chip leader, Lynn Straight from Switzerland, will open things up with Queen 10 suited and a minimum raise. Gorby 3975. This player is hot with a capital hot. Having just won the Sunday Storm just last week, beating over 39,000 runners. Now final tables of Sunday Million. Amazing stuff. Flat calls with the 7s. And it looks like everyone else will get out of the way. Very short stack for Matate from Israel, but he'll fold. And Tatwaf. Strangely amusing name. It's a breed of small mammal, kind of otter or stoat. A Tatwaf, not sure. Somebody check that, Google something. He flat calls, and not a great flop for him. Could see him in a bit of trouble here. Lynn Straight with the bigger kicker. And not too many chips behind for Tatwaf, so this is potentially trouble. Just over a pot-sized bet left. I don't really see how he gets away from things here, because it's a dry flop, isn't it? And I don't know. I fear the worst. Lynn Straight will lead out at this. Fair enough with top pair. And it's not a bad flop for 7s, is it? Apart from the presence of a couple of other players and a lead-out bet. But yeah, Gorby is going to call one street here. And Tatwaf folds. Nice laydown. Given I can see the cards. You have your own opinion at home whether it's a good laydown without being able to see them. Tough to do, certainly. Figured he was beaten. Early position raiser and a caller. Gets away from it. Good stuff. Now Lynn Straight will check this ace turn. And Gorby can decide whether to bet at this. And he does. He's turning these 7s into a bluff. Obviously, it's not like he's trying to extract value from 5s or something, I don't think. And he gets called by Lynn Straight's 10s. So I think that Gorby, whatever the wisdom of that turn bet, now knows that he is behind. I think that's the conclusion he would pretty much have to draw, but he still checks it down and gets shown the winning hand. Interesting, Gorby didn't think a little bit longer about pulling the trigger on that river, but I guess he figured the 3 of spades was not a card that he was going to bluff Lynn Straight off anything. And Lynn Straight now has a really big chip stack, over 21 million, as we watch hand number 14. And George 95, now this may be a very familiar, you may have already spotted him at the table. This is George Lynn III, one of online poker's legendary sit-and-go grinders. Member of Team Online's class of 2010. He's finaled 3 W Coupe events and 2 Scoop High events. This is his first Sunday Million final table, and he'll be looking to get this race through to continue the adventure. Not going to happen though, is it, with Leonard sitting on Ace King, and this looks bad for George. In a dominated spot, doesn't want to see the bigger ace, of course, and now needs to get lucky. Another dry 10 high flop doesn't help him. One of online poker's more well-known names could be hitting the rail. First to leave our final table, no miracle on the river. Leonard will knock him out, and George 95 will have to be content with 9th, $12,000 to add to his, no doubt, already swollen bankroll. Good stuff from the Canadian-based player. And we are 8-handed. Still playing 200,000, 400,000. Hand number 17. And ace kings all over the place. This one belongs to Gorby. And as with the previous hand he played, Lynn Straight has raised in front. Oh, and On Queso's unlucky here. Swedish player, season opening raise from the chip leader, thinks, well, I'm well ahead with my ace high, and I think there's too much wrong with the shove at all, unfortunately. It's that horrible feeling when you shove your chips in, you get the instant shove from behind. You know you're in trouble sitting there with ace 8. And On Queso will get confirmation that Gorby has him dominated here. Another hand where there's 2 aces in a dominating situation for one player. On Queso looking for an 8 on the river, or his race is run. And the 4 of diamonds is no help. Gorby gets a really nice spot. A birthday present to get him back in this thing. On Queso from Sweden is out in 8th spot. $17,866. Did nothing wrong, of course, and a fantastic run through this tournament. The blinds are up in hand 20. 250, 500,000. We're 7-handed at the million. And Gorby opening with pocket 6s. J.H. Wang, 21, a former winner of the nightly 100 Grand on Stars. Experienced player. And currently second in chips. And with the best hand. A lot to recommend him. A lot to recommend him when you add it all up. Just going to flat call with the 9s. Didn't fancy 3-betting and getting it in against that player in that position. Everybody else will leave proceedings, and these 2 will be head up to this flop. And a bingo flop for Gorby. Not only does he hit the set and outdraw J.H. Wang, but J.H. has a great flop for his hand, so this could really be trouble. $3.7 million in there at the moment. Gorby with quite a lot of chips to try and get in. He'll start off by betting just under $1 million. One under $1 million, if you want to be precise. I don't usually want to, but let's mix it up. Now, how does JH play this? He's just going to flat call. Possible all the money doesn't get in here. Oh, that's not the card, is it, for J.H. Wang? From his perspective, every reason to think he's winning. And Gorby might have thought about checking or mixing it up a little bit there, but just continues to fire. He'll just try and get paid on all 3 streets. And could you get away from this if you're J.H. Wang? Should you even? With such a good board for your hand. I guess it depends how much he's played with Gorby, if there's any chance of him doing so. The problem is you can't ask for much more with a pair of 9s. Not sure that river's going to save him either. Just can't rule out the possibility. Well, Gorby's now going to check. Which is, well, it's really interesting, isn't it? I'm surprised he doesn't just put the money in. Perhaps slightly overly elaborate checking on the river. The funny thing is, with exactly the hand that J.H. Wang has, it might well get him paid, whereas maybe Wang could have found a fold. If not, it's tough for Wang not to value bet this, isn't it? And he does, and whether Gorby's check was right or not, with the hand Wang has, in the situation he's in, it ends up working out. A big pot for Gorby, 39.75. What a time to hit a set and have your opponent have an overpair to the board. Dream spot. And that vaults Gorby into the chip lead. 250, 500k in hand 25, and still 7-handed action in the Sunday Million. That pot's left J.H. Wang pretty short stacked, as you can see. Not as short stacked as the big blind, though. Matate, who's power folded his way to just 800k remaining. Has power folded his way to 7th, though, at worst. Thinking about writing a book about power folding. I'm going to call it How I Mucked to Win. So it needs to be pithier, but I'll keep you informed. Mate flat calls for a few remaining chips and catch an 8 or a 3 and he's right back in this. Or a 5 ball for a straight. Queen's not going to help. King high still winning. Mate needing this one, but doesn't get it. Has folded his short stack away, but still laddered up a couple of spots. And 7th place is good for $31,000 for the Israeli player and leaves us 6-handed. And with the elimination of Mate, the honour of shortest stack now falls on Tat Wath. He's going to get out of the way, though. Lindstraight will stay active. We've seen Lindstraight opening a lot of pots, which is fair enough with some players playing too tight and having plenty of chips. And Gorby, for the 3rd time in this highlight show, flat calls the open. So these two will go at it again. Unless JH Wang gets involved. He does not. So heads up to the flop. And Lindstraight's turn to really hit a flop hard. We'll see how much money he can make on this board. It's interesting, isn't it? Because it's so unlikely that Lindstraight would have a 5 here. And Gorby's going to attack with the raise. Interesting. A lot of players might have just called there. Lindstraight will quickly call. Well, I'm laughing, but it's not funny for Lindstraight. It's Christmas if you're Gorby or one of his fans. And now he slow plays. Well, he's got this little habit, hasn't he, of liking to throw in a slow play when he's got the nuts, or the effective nuts. Horrible for Lindstraight, this, because how on earth do you not go broke here? Well, you don't. You try and get paid the maximum. And I promise you, Lindstraight's going to be absolutely disgusted when he sees this. Brutal, brutal turn for Lindstraight. Sends him out the tournament. Gorby 39.75 now with a huge chip stack. Lindstraight unlucky to finish in 6th spot. Well, if you'd like to get into the final few places of Sunday Million, we'd like to give you a shot at it for absolutely nothing. The online poker show free roll details and password coming up later in the show.
We are anticipation. Committed. Anonymous. Focused. Holding it in. We are poker.
You see that snake in 3D, it's terrifying. Gorby, after knocking out Lindstraight in a big, big pot, has taken command of the Sunday Million. There's 5 players left, and he has, well, you can do some quick arithmetic yourself. More than half the chips in play, way more, in fact. It's going to take some stopping him. Amazing how poker players get hot and things just go their way, isn't it? Gorby 39.75, if you weren't paying attention earlier, won the Sunday Storm only last week, beating a field of 39,000 runners. Now on target to beat a field of 7,700 runners. Still a lot of poker to be played, of course, and we've seen before in the Sunday Million how things can change. And maybe things will start to change here with Puika Champ having Gorby in a lot of trouble in this particular hand. Puika Champ starting the hand with 8 million, so I think Gorby would be more than happy to get the money in with 8s here. Certainly should be, I think. And yeah, in it goes. Puika Champ has the best feeling in No Limit Hold'em. Well, one of them anyway. Having someone else set you in when you're sitting with the aces. Now just has to sweat the board. This would send Puika Champ into 2nd. And cut Gorby's lead a little bit. Nothing changes on the flop. And a safe turn for the aces. Just needs to fade the river. Easy game. 17 million chips sliding over to Puigdemont from Romania. Becomes the biggest threat to Gorby. 39.75. Two distinct shorter stacks, as you can see. Tatwaf, who's already folded, and JH Wang in the big blind here with those blinds up to 300, 600,000. Puigdemont will set JH Wang in, and you'd have thought this was a pretty standard call for JH Wang. Doesn't waste too much time in getting the money in and is ahead, but is the player at risk? Ace high in front right now, needs to get it home to carry on, and the king on the flop. Not what he wanted to see. 7 doesn't help him. Needs to catch an ace, or it's going to be 5th place for the experienced JH Wang, and that's how it ends up. The Republic of Korean player takes home $62,000. We're really into the big money now. If this is your first million final table highlight show, then probably time to remind you that all of these players paid just $215 to be here, now winning well into 5 figures and 6-figure sums for the highest finishes. Extraordinary stuff every week. Tatwaf gets to put in his short stack with 8s, and he will get to flip for it. Needs to win this and then win a couple more if he's going to take this down, but he'll try and start right here and double through Leonard. Good flop for the 8s. King or a queen changes it, otherwise Tatwaf doubles up. And he survives. So now him and Leonard's pretty close in stacks, battling for that 3rd and 4th place. Puigdemont has chipped up a little bit, and the gap between him and Gorby not as big as it was a few hands ago as we watch hand number 50. And our 2 chip leaders might go at it here. Gorby not 3-betting, flat calling with the ace-10, which seems sensible. Both players hitting the flop. Now, the other 2 on the sidelines, 2 short stacks, will be praying for a big confrontation. Preferably that knocks Puigdemont out, no offence. But they will get to make some more money if that happens. It's unlikely that these 2 will want to do that, you'd have thought. Bet and a call on the flop. Oh, and a lovely card on the turn for Puigdemont. And Gorby checks. We've seen this pretty consistently from him. I'm certain Gorby thinks he has the best hand here, but does like to check when he has the best hand. Just check calls the turn. By the way, I know he doesn't have the best hand. You know what I'm saying. When he thinks he has a good hand. Likes to use the aggression of other players against him. On this occasion, he's been pretty unlucky. Puigdemont now with the full house. And Gorby will pay him off. Was looking to control the pot a little bit and also get Puigdemont to bluff, but as we could see, Puigdemont got lucky on the turn and got paid on the turn and river and takes the chip lead. Just about ahead of Gorby, 39.75, and that just shows you how quickly it can change No Limit Hold'em when the blinds are big. Gorby was a million miles in front just a few minutes ago. Leonard opens it up with ace-queen on the button, praying for somebody to shove or set him in, and that's what happens. Gets his wish. Leonard can't ask for much more with the short stack in a great spot to double up. No problem for him on the flop. No funky draws to knock him out or anything like that. Okay, well now an 8. So a 6 or an 8 on the river. And that's neither. Leonard doubles up and gets himself back in this. Exactly what he needed. Still four-handed as we watch hand number 64. Tap off the short stack with the pocket pair on the big blind. You'd have thought the money was about to go in, and he's been a little bit unlucky here to run into a bigger pocket pair. I mean, he's the short stack, so you can't complain too much. mean, you can. I've heard poker players do it almost daily, but you're not supposed to. Tatwaf thinking about it, but the German player will eventually put the money in. Gorby has what you would imagine is a pretty straightforward call, and Tatwaf's going to get the bad news that he's up against an overpair. Pretty unlucky not to be flipping for a double up here. And unless he can find a third deuce, he's going to be finishing fourth. That's how it goes. Gorby regains the chip lead, and Tatwaf 19, after a great run through the million, finishes fourth for $78,000. Great payday. We're three-handed, and after Peter-Champ had a short spell in the chip lead, the natural order of things is restored. Gorby 39.75 is ahead. And it looks like we're going to see a blind battle. Leonod flat calling, has position, not too much of a hand, but then neither of them does. Peter-Champ vaulting to the lead with a pair on the flop. He'll just check. Leonod will bet. Always a little bit optimistic to think that the pre-flop raise is just going to check fold. It's getting harder for Peter-Champ, isn't it? Bottom pair on this board, out of position. What would you do? He does check. If Leonod keeps firing, well, Leonod's decided to shut it down. And bink the river. So get out of jail free card on the river for Leonod. Peter-Champ obviously would be happy just to get to a free showdown. Don't think that's going to happen now. I mean, the king of diamonds does complete the diamond flush draw, does complete some straights, but yeah, Leonod's got to try and get some value here. And Peter-Champ makes a solid laydown. But things are tightening up. Look like we're going to have a runaway winner, but Leonod's got back in this and now has enough chips to really do damage to the other two. So it's interesting now. Some poker to play. 400,000, 800,000 stacks. Blind, sorry. Stacks a lot bigger than that. You'll be able to see that from the numbers in them. Huge. But a little bit playable. I mean, Leonod sitting with 20 big blinds or so makes a nicely timed re-steal. So the Belarusian moving through the gears here as this chip stack builds. A very close third spot now. Legitimate three-way fight for the Sunday Million title. And a prize well in excess of 6 figures. Leonod opens this one and Peter-Champ finds a real hand. Well, we haven't seen too many big hands, but Peter-Champ's had a couple of them. Aces and now kings. Oh, and Leonod decides this is the time to get the money in. Unfortunately, Peter-Champ was not re-stealing. He has the goods. And Leonod has walked into a monster. Pretty unlucky, of course, to bump his head into pocket kings at this stage of the game. That's the way it goes. Huge pot for both these players then. 42 million in the middle. Leonod is all in and needs an ace. It doesn't arrive. And Peter-Champ will scoop this one and leave us heads up for the million title.
We are competition. Aggression. Calculating. We are trapped. Fighting back. We are heroes. are poker.
Welcome back to the Sunday Million. The online poker show free roll will kick off on March the 1st, 3:35 Eastern Standard Time. Your password for that one, PCA, a free shot at a million seat. You don't want to miss out on that. You don't want to miss out on this either. Our heads-up battle for the money and the title. Puika Champ from Romania against Gorby 397 from Russia. They will battle after the unlucky elimination of Leonid in third. The Belarusian takes home $116,000 and needs these two to fight for it. They would do a deal. So they're setting aside $20,000 for the winner. Still a huge amount of money to pay Heads Up Poker for. And of course the prestige of the Sunday Million title. Puika Champ, no stranger to the big occasion. He has final tabled a W Coupe event himself. So don't think the pressure will get to either of them. We know that Gorby's won a huge tournament and knows what it takes to close one out. So this should be interesting. Gorby with the nines decides to check back on this ace-high flop. Tricky player to play against Gorby, as we've seen throughout this final table, does mix up what he does post-flop. You have to play with him for a decent amount of time to get a read on what he's doing, I think. Puika Champ will call the turn bet with king high and a pair of twos. Or a pair of twos with a king, if we're going to be traditional. Jack of diamonds doesn't change anything, and Puika Champ is losing this one. Gorby just checks it back. Decides this is not the spot for a thin value bet, but he'll win the pot. And a nice start to him to the heads-up match. Still just behind Puika Champ in chip stacks. Gorby has the effective stack. About 45 big blinds, so a little bit of room to work with for both players here. And Puika Champ can afford to call a 3-bet, so we'll see a flop. Potentially big pot, this one. 6 million in the middle. Again, Gorby checks post-flop. I think a lot of players would have just automatically bet there. Gorby mixing it up, as he has done throughout this final table. Puika Champ checks back. And Gorby says no more checking. Again, you'd have to say potentially turning those sixes into a bluff, but doesn't want to let another diamond run off or Puika Champ make him fold the best hand or something like that. And he's made a good start to this heads-up match. They're almost level now, effectively level. And we could see a good battle here. Both players have shown they can mix up their play aggressively. They've both won big events in the past, not afraid to go to war with a lot of money at stake, and they do have some room to play. Both with king high here. Again, a 3-bet pot. And Gorby flops top pair, Puika Champ bottom pair. Bet and a call. Now, will Gorby do his cunning checking thing? Technical term. He will not. He'll keep firing this time. Really small bet as well. He really does mix things up, Gorby. Not easy for his opponents at all. 19 million in the pot. Gorby must know that he's a mile in front most of the time here. 8 might worry him a little bit, but I don't know how many 8s there are in Puika Champ's range. He'll just go check on the river. Maybe Gorby might regret not trying to win a little bit more with that hand. Things would continue to go his way, though. This is hand 110, and that chip advantage has just grown. It's been one-way traffic in this heads-up match. Gorby owning Puika Champ a little bit so far. It can change, of course, but Things definitely going the Russians' way at the moment. PokerChamp not hitting flops like he'd like to. He'll try and take this one down on a pretty dry looking board. Gorby with a pair makes the call. And a card for PokerChamp. He needed one. He needed to win a pot pretty quickly. It looks like he's going to have this one to himself. 8 million in the middle. Check, check it goes on the turn. And the 2 changes nothing. So I think we'd expect to see PokerChamp try and get a little bit of value here. He does bet it. And how does Gorby read this? Well, pretty quick call. Pays off his Romanian opponent, and that narrows the deficit between them. So this is a fun heads-up battle. Both players, despite a deal being done, very well aware they're playing for 20k, which is a lot of money, especially in a $215 buy-in event, but also for the Sunday Million title. And neither is giving up easily. It's good stuff. Nice flop for PokerChamp, this one. Top pair on a really dry board. One of those boards where he's either got it, but most of the time he doesn't got it. Gorby with 6s. I think he'll think he's got the best hand a decent amount of the time here. Especially now, PokerChamp deciding to check the turn. I think he just thinks he stands the best chance of getting paid on the river, but that is a disastrous card for him. Birthday present for Gorby. And with the blinds big, it's cards like that that can turn these heads-up matches. PokerChamp just calls. It was kind of a max bet from Gorby, almost bet the pot, and does get paid. And PokerChamp, well, that one will hurt. Knocks him down to a short stack, and he will not be happy. 18 big blinds left as we play 500,000 million blinds. Both of them have a hand here. This could be enough to get the money in. Well, now that Gorby's 3-bet, I think almost certainly PokerChamp with those 18 bigs must go with this. And he's got a great spot. Great spot to double through Gorby. He's going to be delighted when he sees the King-Jack. Of course, if this goes wrong for PokerChamp, this tournament is over. And it looks like it might. King on the flop for Gorby could be the key card in this week's Sunday Million. 9 of clubs changes nothing. PokerChamp screaming for an ace, but it doesn't come. And he had a great run through this Sunday Million, but he couldn't get past Gorby 3975. Maybe the hottest poker player on the planet this week, having won the Sunday Storm just a few days ago, and now binking the Sunday Million. What an amazing double that is. He takes home $208,000 in change and defeats PokerChamp, who takes home almost as much. Great payday for both of them, as well as Leonard rounding out the podium. Confirmation of all the payouts in this week's Sunday Million. It was a good one. Fantastic heads-up duel between these two, with Gorby prevailing and completing a fantastic double for him. It's been lots of fun. Hope you've enjoyed it. There'll be another Sunday Million next week. For now, I'm Nick Wealthall. For everybody at PokerStars.tv, have a great week. We'll talk to you soon.